Hello, it's Paul and it's
Megan.
And this is the ESPC show.
Yes, it is. And we're back today with another quarterly property market review episode. And we're in the Hawksmoor in Edinburgh and we're joined by 4 ESPC member firms. So I'll let them introduce themselves. Amy, I don't know if you want to kick us off.
Sure, I'm Amy Howard from Nielsen's Solicitors and Estate Agents.
Rob McGregor from Gilson Gray.
Sir.
Ivan Ralph from Ralph Sear.
Jamie Soul from Black Guitar.
The questions get harder.
Yeah, they do, only slightly. So today we're going to be unpacking everything that's happened in Q3 of 2025 in the property market across Edinburgh, the Lothians, Fife and Scottish borders. So we thought we would start with a question. I'm sure you guys are all used to a lot of armchair experts in the space, and they might be cornering you at dinner parties and at social events and to ask you how the property market is doing. So I thought, why don't we just kick off with that? So if somebody approached you right now and said, what's happening in the property market, Jamie, what are they saying? What are you saying to them?
Steady as it goes, I would say. I think majority of things are still moving along nicely. You might see a few properties that maybe they need a bit of work are a wee bit sticky, or if they've maybe been priced slightly highly are a wee bit tricky. But on the whole, I would say things are pretty steady and moving along nicely. It's good movement, I would say. Yeah,
do you all agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree. Robust but nuanced. I would say that I think there's there's strength to this year when we look at the review of the year overall and where we're at. Now we're in Q3. There's a resilience to the Edinburgh market that's perhaps not shown across the rest of the UK. I think there have been a lot of headlines in the run-up to the budget, to sort of anticipation of what Rachel Reeves might say, might do, and the impact that will have. That's maybe spooked home movers a little bit, even north of the border, where we're not going to be directly impacted by her tax changes. We'll have to wait to see what Scotland says about that. But things that are carefully valued, professionally marketed through the ESPC, there's plenty of good news out there with sales, with viewing activity, with everything ongoing.
Yeah, I think September was a good month. There was a lot of activity right across the pricing spectrum. So I don't think there's a particular backlog of unsold properties in a sector. It's very much, to me, it seems like it's address by address at the moment. With people asking you the specific area, what's the activity like where I am? It almost is case by case at the moment. There doesn't seem to be a consistent sort of thread across the board.
And I would say in many ways it's optimum market conditions because properties are selling in a reasonable time scale but not going for the daft prices that we saw 3-4 years ago post-COVID. Most buyers know that they can buy a property at a reasonable level now and aren't frightened of selling their own property to go on to do that. So I think it's pretty decent all round.
Okay, well, I think that gives us a very pithy answer to where we are now. If we went back to the start of the year, was it quite as, what's your phrase, Amy, robust and nuanced at the start of the year, or do you feel there's been a change in as the years rolled out?
I think we saw a lot of activity early in the year. The year took off like a rocket, particularly at the first-time buyer end of the market, and obviously that flows through into the rest of the market. I think we've seen a slight slowing, and that's reflected in the number of new listings that have come to the market in August and September. But sales times have remained steady and remarkably fast compared to the rest of the United Kingdom. I think the year has been, we've maybe not quite seen the autumn boom that we would have been expecting to have at this time of year, but there's still all to play for. We're here approaching the middle of October. Average time to settlement maybe being 8 to 10 weeks. There's still people who might think, right, I want to be in by Christmas, and I'm going to go for it.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it'd be good to get your take on this. We were just looking at the latest house price report, so July or September. Listings were down 5%. Market share, solicitor agents up, good, but listings down 5%. Sales up 8%. So supply squeeze. Quick look on the ESPC today, 10% less stock than it was this time last year. So interesting to get your thoughts on what might be happening right now and what might happen if that continues.
Yeah, I think as Amy sort of touched on earlier, there has been a wee bit of just caution come with the budget being pushed back, that didn't help. So I think everyone's sort of, why have they pushed it back? What's going to come? What are they hiding? Are we going to get any surprises? So there's a little bit of caution come from that. But further down, the first-time buyer market is still moving really well, and when that moves well, it helps everything further up. So we have seen, as you say, things selling and moving well. But I think people are being picky. I think they're taking their time. There's a huge amount of chains involved now. So some of those stats could be a bit of a delay from these chains coming to conclusion as well and settling, and so there might be a little bit of a skew, it could be said. But yeah, I think there was a slight cautious element when you talk to people about what's going to come out in the budget and are there going to be any nasty surprises. But
definitely an eagle eye on that.
Yeah.
So I think it probably more so at the higher end. So I think that activity there is definitely slower because people, it feels like they're sitting on the fence a little unless they have to move. They're just, well, let's see which way the wind blows. But your middle market is still performing well. I think life goes on, and the sensitivities of mortgage rates, it's a slightly different sort of field in that area. So hopefully that continues as we.
I think that's true. The general cost of living has eased from what it was a year or two back, and rates have come down, so conditions are much better for people looking to buy at the moment. So I think that's helped to keep things ticking over.
Yeah, I'd say so. As you say, so first-time buyers make the most of the opportunity because the premiums have become slightly. The discretionary sellers take a bit of a wait-and-see approach.
I think so. I think it, people, they need to buy and sell for a variety of reasons. Doesn't matter how the market is, there will always be that core out there. But certainly, if anyone's looking for a reduction in the mortgage rates, I don't see that happening for the rest of the year because of the underlying inflation, wages, all of that. But hopefully, get through the budget into spring, get a little bit more.
I think the good thing is, we're still going out and doing lots of appraisals, valuations. People still want to have those conversations. So I think so long as those are still happening, ultimately people are still thinking and want to move. It's a funny thing, doesn't really seem to matter.
I think the sellers that I've been speaking to are very aware of that. What they want is to move house. They're not too concerned about achieving the best possible price in terms of tiny scales, and what they might be paying for the next property is relevant as well. So I think the other thing that we have to bear in mind about the public perception of the property market is that a headline saying property market performs well isn't going to sell newspapers, So I would be saying to would-be home movers, check your sources, look at the ESPC house price report, listen to this podcast, and be very wary of where that news and information is coming from and what's behind it, what's motivating it. One bank is only ever going to talk about its own rates, its own products, its own experience, rather than speaking to a collective like us who'll give you an overview of the entire market.
Yeah, and I think we've seen rates slightly decoupled from the base rate, and I hope you're not right, Rob, because we've said we'll see 4 cuts. So we want to get to 3.75, we're at 4.
I think it'll come.
6th of November.
I think there's just been a slight delay because of the budget, that's all.
Yeah, and I think we've all been blindsided a bit by inflation being as high as it is, well above the 2%.
You do feel it, most people either go buy their weekly shop and it doesn't feel like that's getting particularly cheaper, but at least, as you say, it has stabilised. So.
Yeah, I think so. So 6th of November or 21st of December, final review. That could be an early Christmas result.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've kind of covered a few things we were going to ask you about next, but I thought the next thing we could maybe touch on is maybe really drilling down into areas, property types. What is really in demand right now? What are you seeing buyers and sellers looking for?
Good family homes, traditional period properties in areas with good school catchments, 4 or 5 bed houses like that are selling like the proverbial hotcakes. Areas like Castorfin, Obviously,
Why
we've
is that?
seen.
It is always one of the top
It's always one of the top areas. It's probably because Nielsen's head office is.
purely circumstantial. There are other agents available.
But yeah, good quality family homes in areas like that. I think good quality is key. Anything that needs a little bit of work, looks a bit tired, overgrown garden, etc., you're almost giving buyers an excuse as to why they're not going to buy a property. So, doing those DIY jobs and things before marketing are fundamental to sale.
We've seen a big increase just anecdotally in people talking about Musselburgh as well. Are you seeing that that market
Definitely.
there?
Anything commutable from, I don't know, 20 miles away, flying off the shelf. Mm-hmm. So it's the individual or individuals who've perhaps sold a flat well in Edinburgh, but the problem is their next move is just a bigger flat. Mm-hmm. So what they really want, and especially post-COVID, is that front door private garden. So as a price point, you're going to get that in a lot of the old coal mining towns or villages. Anything near a transport hub, they're flying away. So I'd say that's a really good sector at the moment.
Yeah.
And affordable.
Yeah, first time buyer market as well is moving really well. Again, it does kind of come down to condition. Those sort of ex-rental that are looking a bit tired and have, haven't had a lick of paint in 20 odd years, they're still pretty tough. But the flip of that is it's a great opportunity for a first-time buyer to get a great buy and put their own stamp on. So, the classic Marchmont, Morningside, Brunsfield, those sorts of areas, local amenities play a big part in that. Those sort of areas are still, the 2-bed, 3-bed flats are still moving really nicely and well, getting good premiums if they're in good condition as well. But that first-time market, there's some really healthy budgets out there. Wish I had a budget like that when I was buying first time. But the first-time buyer market is really flying along. I think there's been a lot of gifts from bank and mum and dad that are just helping to because a lot of guys can afford the monthly repayments. It's that initial cash deposit that they need for the stamp duty, obviously, and the deposits. So I think there's been a lot of help from them to get people going, but once they're there, they can comfortably pay those mortgage repayments. So that kind of market seems to be moving quite nicely too.
Yeah, kind of a hotspot, Ivan.
I was just going to say, after that kind of post-COVID point, that I think for many people now, where you live is probably the most important thing, and the quality of life that you have and the accommodation you're in. That came into sharp focus in COVID, and I think that's continued on, where people now will push the boat out and extend themselves to buy the best property that they can. And I think there's a lot to be said for that, rather than necessarily holding back and trying to kind of keep money up your sleeve for something else. I think it's probably the best place to put your cash. Mm-hmm. And from a quality of life point of view, just a general investment point of view, I think it's a decent move. Yeah,
and as we say, if things have become a little bit and you're moving up the way, that gap is arguably slightly smaller than it was maybe the year before, or maybe what it might be again. So I'm just going to throw another stat out here just for discussion, really. Sort of touched upon it a little bit already, the fall through rate. So from agreeing, shopping, take a bath around the table here, but from agreeing a sale to those sales that ultimately fall through, and that's up at 10%. So 1 in 10 was previously around 7.4%, so marginally less. To probably give it some context, England and Wales 33%. So count our blessings, we've still got a really good, solid, functioning market. But just been a slight increase there. Just interested to get your thoughts on why that might be, and do we expect that to rise, or have we reached peak?
I suspect some of that will be offers subject to sale, which are a fairly recent thing in the market, and obviously most properties that go under offer subject to sale will proceed to completion. But there will be a small percentage of those that won't sell in the time scale that the buyer is given to sell, and therefore that will increase slightly the fall through rate that there is. It's not a huge number, but it is a proportion that will increase the figure slightly.
Yeah. I think we're seeing that.
I'd say it's the length of those chains as well as getting longer and longer and longer, especially higher up the market.
Yes.
Further up the market you get, the longer the train.
I heard about one being 12 the other day, which seems quite a lot.
Just give up.
They take a huge amount of management.
I think chains are certainly to blame. I think that the message I would give to buyers and sellers about it is the key to keeping a chain together is communication. So working with a solicitor, estate agent who is in control of that chain, is speaking to all of the links in the chain and is keeping you up to date of what's happening is absolutely fundamental. I also think that ESPC charter firms who agree when they're putting a chain together to look at putting dates in place and certain stop points and review points in place in the chain is really important as well, to keep everybody motivated and keep everything on track. And the other thing I would say is it's not the end of the world if a sale falls through. A lot of the fall-through rate in England and Wales at that 33% will be because there's no upfront cost to a seller putting a property on the market. They're not outlaying for a home report. They're not, they may be thinking, if I don't get what I want, I'll see how it goes, or maybe accept that offer and then actually, no, I've changed my mind. I didn't get what I want. I'm just going to try again next year. And therefore, the whole thing falls through. Here, we don't have sellers just taking a punt on the market. They commit to it, they put a home report in place, and quite often they're looking at having marketing fees that they'll be paying towards to putting their property onto the market. So you've got that commitment from sellers that they do want to do want to see things through, and the buyer will be out there. Ultimately, demand is outstripping supply in our area, and people need places to live. So we could get really worried about fall-through rates, and they're higher than they've been. But we know why that is. Yes. It's because of chains, and we know what we can do about it.
And the good news is it's not lenders not withdrawing mortgage offers or anything like that. This is, as I say. And I guess from a conveyancing point of view, even if a sale falls through, you've done a lot of the work. It's ready to go. If that sale reactivates itself and they find the buyer, or it's a new buyer.
And most of the searching firms, for example, if you've outlaid for searches for an initial sale that doesn't proceed, you can get a free update of the searches, etc. So you're not landing yourself with huge additional costs in that scenario. So it's not, as Amy says, it's not the end of the world. It's not ideal, but equally, 9 times out of 10, the sale will proceed, albeit slightly later than initially planned. So it's not the end of the world, just a minor bump in the road, but that will happen from time to time.
Indeed.
Yeah, so let's talk maybe a bit more about sellers. What are you kind of hearing from sellers right now? How are you managing expectations when they come to the market? Are they aware of how the market is suddenly? Are you having to do a lot of... Sorry, I'm asking loads of questions in one.
Just say yes.
That's what we were saying earlier. It is just educating them, because I think everyone's an expert in property, as in the general public. Yeah. So that's absolutely fine. But you have to become armed with the pertinent information and be able to not disagree, but perhaps bring them back down to the terra firma and just say, well, look, we'd love to get you that figure. However, here's the evidence that would support a slightly different number, or actually you're being too pessimistic. It does happen. And it's really just finding the right balance and working. It's actually getting them on board and saying, look, we will work with you. And I think you're in their homes, so they're more likely to listen to what you're saying if you're coming armed with that information and really delivering it in a constructive way, because it's, for most people, it's their biggest asset. So there's a lot of emotion on the go, so you have to understand that, and then yes, okay, perhaps that style of property is maybe not to your taste, but for whatever reason it's theirs. So it's just getting in sync with what they are looking to do. Listen to them. I think that's the key thing. Listen, and then take it from there.
Yeah, I would agree. Sellers are always nervous, and as Rob says, it's their biggest asset that they're selling, and they need to put their trust in you. So you need to be able to give them sound advice, evidence-based advice, realistic advice, and to guide them through the process of how it is now. The property market has changed significantly, I would say, post-pandemic, particularly in Edinburgh and the Lothians, where we no longer really have open viewings as a standard thing. Those Thursday evenings and Sunday afternoons are pretty much a thing of the past. And sellers are expecting a queue of people around the block and, 20 people within the first week. And actually the reality is that viewers don't operate like that anymore. They spend a long time looking at photographs, floor plans, virtual tours, videos, scoping out the area. So actually by the time they book that viewing and they come to see your house in person, they're quite committed already. They're already fairly serious about it. So you don't need 10 viewers within the space of half an hour on a Sunday afternoon. You need 1 or 2 really serious viewers, who take their time to make a serious and considered decision, which is when they're then making the biggest purchase of their lives, quite often exactly how it should be.
Yeah, I suppose as well, with a lot of people making offers subject to sale now, it's understanding what's involved in that process and the timescales that involved. So if people are starting to offer, is their property ready to go on the market? That's, because if someone accepts an offer, typically they'll be given 4 to 5 working days to list their property, and then a review period of which around 4 weeks. Now, if you look at the stats on the ESPC, that's comfortable, but you need to be ready to go. and it's making people understand that. And again, it comes back to what Ian was saying about the chartered agents. That is something that we adhere to and make sure and working with our clients to make sure they're ready to go. But it's having your property prepared, because if you make an offer and you're accepted, there is pressure on it, and that's when it can become stressful. So if you're, as I say, educated and understand what's in it, then at least you're prepared for that, so which takes some stress away. It shouldn't be a stressful process. It should be enjoyable, and if you've got good agents that are behind you and looking after you, it will be an enjoyable process. But you need to listen to what's being said. So make sure you're ready to go if you are offering subject to sale.
The other thing, one of the stats in the most recent report was that 22.4%, I think, of properties are selling at closing dates. So it's no longer the case that absolutely everything in Edinburgh is going to a closing date and going for figures way above the value. So, that's part of the education of the sellers, to know that they're not guaranteed to get a closing date and get way above valuation. The average sale price being 102.4 above home report, or sorry, 102.4% of home report at the moment.
Yeah.
That's not bad, but it's not the 10, 15, 20% above we were seeing 3-4 years ago when the market was crazy. So it's as we were saying earlier, a much calmer, more sensible market. From a selling point of view on its own, that may not be great, but equally the same thing's going to happen at the other side if you're buying onwards. So it swings and roundabouts, as we said earlier.
That's really good insight there. I mean, we're going to just think now about if the sellers listening are thinking about maybe selling now or waiting until after Christmas. We've already mentioned Christmas, so I've got my permission to talk about it. So what would you say to a seller now that's maybe thinking, are they better put them on the market now, or should they wait till January? Discuss.
Depends how ready they are. I mean, you'll be the judge of that when you go around. If the place is floor to ceiling full of bric-a-brac, then clearly, by the time you're ready, it will be getting closer to Christmas. I think in my experience, once a tree goes up, you've had it. There's no point. Just wait until January. But to be honest, if they are ready, well, why wait? Okay, you could argue that there are less potential buyers as you move into the colder months, but there's the buyers at this time of year tend to be, or some of them, it's a bit of a hangover from, the summer months where they're still motivated but they've been unsuccessful, and all of a sudden something comes on, right, we'll be having that. So actually it can be quite a good few months. The November, Decembers, you can have quite a lot of offers floating in because of that. So I think, if you're ready to go, just go. Don't procrastinate and
don't put your tree up in October.
Get through Halloween.
I'll take mine down.
I would agree. Do the jobs, do the DIY, do the gardening, be absolutely ready. And if that is going to take you 4 weeks to do, then maybe we would be reassessing things. I am about to put my money where my mouth is. I put a house on the market for a family member next week, and I have every faith that that's going to go well, because the buyers that you find at this time of year, as Rob said, can be highly motivated. They've missed out on other properties as the year's gone on. They want to get on and they want to move in. I think the key messages to sellers are to have your action plan in place. Where are you going to go if you sell quickly? Also have the jobs done. The presentation is absolutely everything. Buyers start their search for a home looking at tiny thumbnail images on a mobile phone for the most part. If yours doesn't stand out from the crowd, it's not going to do well on the market. Preparation is everything. There's all to play for, and be prepared.
Well, read that.
I would agree. I mean, I don't think the market's as seasonal as it used to be. It's fairly constant through most of the year. Yes, there will be 3 or 4 weeks over the Christmas period when it will quieten down, but up until that point, I wouldn't expect that to be the case at all. And something that's going on in the market the next week or two will probably have sold in advance of Christmas. So, I would say absolutely get on and do it if you're ready to do it.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's motivation as well. If you want to move this side of the year, get going.
Yeah.
Don't hang around. But I agree with Ivan, especially in the flat market, the flats will sell all year round, and there's always going to be interested buyers. For first-time buyers looking, they don't have that same motivation around a Christmas holiday maybe as such. So, but yeah, I think if you want to make that move before Christmas, get going, and you're ready to go for it.
I mean, we do see a slight bounce, talking about Christmas now, on traffic on Boxing Day. Back to, I think it's your point, Amy, how serious all those people are, I don't know, but I mean, it does start to pick up a little bit, but you hear a lot of headlines saying traffic's up 100%. It's compared to Christmas Day. Well,
nobody's looking for a house on Christmas Day unless something's gone really wrong.
Well, there's a question. Anyone ever had an offer?
House sale.
It could be it.
Anyone taking an offer on Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, Boxing Day? Anyone?
Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
But again, it's maybe where they've, it depends what weekday Christmas lands on. So if it's a Thursday, well, you've had probably 3 business days, to have a little bit of activity. So there's always people out there, but I think by Boxing Day, they've got through all of that kind of family gathering. They've had enough of everyone, so they're kind of
looking for one bed flat.
Right, let's ESPC, let's see what's out there, and we're going to move next year. So it is it's a good time of year to meet your family, friends. Right, what are we going to do? Right, this is the plan. And then January, it can be a busy month because of that. It's that pent up. The first 2 or 3 weeks can be quite good, as long as there's no snow.
And I just do you take your Christmas tree down on Boxing Day the way you're describing it, Rob. But,
well, this is it. That's that and snow bad.
Well, yeah, so that kind of brings us nicely on to the new year, and some predictions for what the rest of the year holds and 2026. Just to start with, what do you think the next 3 months maybe hold for the market in general? Amy?
I think the next 3 months we will see more of the same that we've seen over the past couple of months. A bit of caution, a bit of hesitancy. We're all waiting with bated breath to see what Rachel Reeves is going to say and what the impact that will be on the Scottish Government and how they then follow suit. Last December they treated us to an overnight tax hike. So, be prepared, I would say is the thing for us to consider over the next 3 months. Heading into the new year, I do think we will see that typical new year bounce. People like to move. People need houses. Supply is, being outstripped by demand. I'm cautiously optimistic that we'll all be sat here in a year's time still doing the same job.
I mean, I think, pragmatism, prudence and practicality, they're the three big ones. So it's a bit of, I think it's a bit of everything thrown into those words, because I've got to be practical, I need to sell and I need to buy, but let's just see what the budget, or maybe just see what's going on there, and then you get through that. Right, practically we still need to move. The world's just the same. Yes, things might be a bit more expensive or whatever, but I'm a family, I'm wanting to expand, we need a bigger house. So the world's not on pause because of that. So you do find people, they digest that, whatever it is, and then the whole market just carries on again, and we've seen that time and time again, especially in the last 10 years. So I can't see it being any different.
And I think with interest rates, a year or two back when they were higher than they've been for a long time, that did put people off. But now they've again come back into line, have come down quite a bit, and now I think people realise that they're actually not too bad at all. It's palatable, and people don't see that as a hurdle to them moving. So I think, whilst rates might come down a little bit, it's not as if they're so high that people are thinking, oh no, I can't move now, I'm going to wait till they come down. I think that's evened out.
Who were spoiled with rates as low as they were for as long as they were. I think it's ultimately what it was. Historically, rates are still low.
Still low, yeah.
And that's what people kind of forget. But it's something that Amy mentioned earlier. Edinburgh is a very resilient city, and I think that's when you look at what's happening within the local market compared to the rest of the UK. There's a lot of good news. It's just the press don't report the good news, as they say, it doesn't make the headlines. So, yeah, I totally agree with what Amy's saying. I feel pretty confident about the way things are going, and will remain steady Eddie, I think, is kind of the message I would be putting out.
Okay.
So we've got a couple, maybe a bit more, I'm saying fun, I don't know if fun is the right word. But yeah, so we're, this is a safe space. If you could make one bold prediction for the next 6 months in the property market, what would you predict could happen?
That we'll see real movement towards the regulation of property agents. That will make a huge change to how the public view our profession and how it operates generally. Yeah. That would be my, come on please, that's got to happen.
Yeah.
I'd love to see a change in the stamp duty for first-time buyers, especially within Edinburgh. You look at the average property price in Edinburgh compared with the rest of Scotland. It's, even if it could be altered locally, that would be fantastic, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, unfortunately.
We're pushing for it.
I know you're doing your best.
I think regional LPTT taxation makes complete sense.
I think that would make a big difference for first-time buyers.
It'll never happen, but I would like to see ADS come down.
That would be good.
Yeah.
I mean, as Amy was saying, last year it was an absolute nightmare the way it was done as well, where you had, we did manage to get some transactions, missives concluded on the afternoon that you had to do that, but to be kind of landed with that kind of news with a couple of hours notice of the change was just incredible.
Horrendous. And for those that don't know, this is the second home tax effectively, or if you own a second property, 8% was 5, started at 3.
3 went to 6 and then went to 8 overnight.
And whispers it may go higher. I think again, we as ESPC was sort of saying, look, give small landlords a break, just have a holiday for a period of time, just to get more supply into the renters market, which isn't a market we've really discussed today, but we know we're seeing an increase in rents, and one of the reasons we're seeing that is a shortage of rental properties. So we need more landlords.
Yeah, I would agree.
Again, this is all supply issues. Sorry, on the soapbox.
No, that's okay. That's allowed. As I said, safe space. And we've got one final question, which is Paul's favourite question. And you know what, Paul? You can answer the question.
No.
As well.
I'll answer. Yeah.
So the final question is: complete this sentence. Right now, the Edinburgh property market is
robust and nuanced. That again.
Positive.
Good, Ivan.
Ticking over quite nicely.
Yeah, steady.
Missing the Christmas tree. There you go.
Well, thank you all so much for coming along. We really appreciate it. Thank you all for watching, listening, wherever you are doing so. Please remember to subscribe, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify. And we'll be back in a fortnight's time.
We will see you then. Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.